Hey there, welcome to Pepper Geek. In this video, we'll show you what our pepper plants look like in the month of July. So last month we did a walkthrough of our pepper garden along with everything else we have growing to give you a realistic picture of what things looked like in the month of June. And now about a month has passed and a lot has changed, so we figured we'd show you what our plants look like in the month of July. Now we have a lot of pepper plants growing in different places, from our raised beds here to our container gardens to our in-ground community garden plot, and we'll be showing you all of those throughout the course of this video. We've had some difficulties this year and some pretty good success so far, and we'll show you what we've been doing to deal with those problems along the way. We'll start here, and this is probably our best looking pepper garden this season so far. We have 5 different pepper plants here coming from 4 of the major pepper species. Right here we have 2 Baccatum plants, the Ají Cristal and the Ají Amarillo, both of which are the tallest, probably about 3.5–4 feet tall so far, and already producing lots of peppers. In the middle we have a red habanero plant, which is a little bit lower, but it's very broad and wide. Also, if you look under the canopy, lots and lots of fruits coming along with more flowers too. Up front we have a bell pepper, which has one huge pod on it, along with several others that have started to form up higher on the plant, so we're looking forward to a good harvest of bell peppers there. Right next to the bell we have our ricotta pepper from Capsicum pubescens, and I'm really pleased to say that this is about as good as we've been able to get a Capsicum pubescens plant to grow in our climate, and I attribute part of that to the shade cloth, but also the kaolin clay that we've been spraying to protect from beetles and reduce the temperature on the plants. Speaking of beetles, you may have noticed some damage. That's going to be a theme throughout this video. The beetles in the month of June and right into July have been so oppressive. They've really taken a liking to our peppers in particular. It's unfortunate, our favorite crop of all. Now, like I said, the peppers in this bed look a lot better than some in our other raised beds, and I think we can attribute that to the shade cloth that we've used, and that brings me to the sponsor of this video, Bootstrap Farmer. That's where we got this white 50% shade cloth, and it does a great job of not only protecting the plants from heat, but also from flying insects. You're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone in that regard. We've been super impressed with the durability of this so far. We've had some crazy storms this season, 50, 60 mile an hour wind gusts, and this hasn't skipped a beat. A lot of that is thanks to these really secure clips that keep that shade cloth in place and prevent it from going anywhere, even when it's really windy. So if you live in a really hot climate, check out Bootstrap Farmer's selection of different shade cloths, along with a bunch of different amazing garden products at the first link in the description below. So really, I've only peeled back this shade cloth to showcase the plants during this. I'm gonna pull it back over when we're done with this video, because we just got out of another heat wave and it's gonna heat back up in the week ahead. So keeping these plants covered has been a game changer.
So moving over to this raised garden bed, we have our Fresno plant here, and it looks really good. We have lots of pods on it, and we already have one starting to ripen. So we're very excited to harvest these and use them in fresh hot sauce. Speaking of which, if you caught our previous video, we made an amazing homemade Sriracha. It has a quick ferment and it's absolutely delicious. So if you want to make that at home, use Fresno peppers like this, or jalapeno peppers would work as well. Next, over here in the far corner, we have the cobanero plant, and this is one of 2. We have one growing in a pot as well. We absolutely love growing the cobanero pepper. It has quickly become one of our favorites. It's such a strong plant, and the pods taste absolutely delicious. They're great dried. You can use them to make hot sauce or just to hydrate them and use them as seasoning. Interestingly enough, the pods on this plant look a little bit different than they did last year. So I'm curious to see how they come in and what the flavor is like compared to our plant last year. This plant has fared pretty well with the beetles and the pest damage. Looks really good, and overall it's a strong plant, and it's always a lot of fun to grow these. For the last pepper in this raised bed, we have the Barbarous Antipodes, and we're very excited about this one. This is the Bell Ghost Pepper Cross. The leaves are kind of big and floppy on this plant, and the beetles have definitely been attracted to it. This plant looks better than the one at the garden plot. It still doesn't look great compared to some of our plants, but we do have some good pods coming in, and we're definitely going to film our first taste and reaction to the flavor of these pods because we're so curious how it's going to taste. And if you remember last time, we talked about these variegated tomatoes, which look a whole lot better than they did before. And there's some calendula growing just to attract those beneficial pollinators. But these 2 tomato plants have really taken off. They look pretty good. It's our first time growing variegated tomatoes, and pretty excited to try them as well.
If we move up to the next raised bed, you can see these two pepper plants do not look nearly as healthy, and that's for a couple of reasons, but really I think the most important factor here has been protection from those beetles, and these plants were just more exposed and dealt with more damage as a result. Now the plants aren't totally destroyed. We do have some big cayennes growing there, but the foliage has been really ravaged by the beetles. They tend to go after the youngest leaves as they're forming, so the plant really can't make any progress while those beetles are feeding. Crystalline and I have come out after dark to deal with some of these nocturnal beetles, putting them into some soapy water, and that really did seem to make a difference. Looking at the top of the plant, you can see the newest foliage is looking a little bit better. The plants are starting to actually make some progress and grow more healthy leaves. Hopefully this plant will still give us a big harvest by the end of the season. I hope that by showing you this plant, it will offer some encouragement if you're dealing with issues in your garden. It's totally normal. All of us deal with it. No gardening season is perfect, and even when you're dealing with issues like this, you always have some form of option to try to get the most out of the season anyway. I will take this opportunity to show you some plants in this garden that do look good. These are our cucumbers that were planted about a month and a half ago or so. They're already starting to produce some cucumbers. We'll have 12-inch cucumbers growing off of some of these plants in maybe a month or so. And if you want to see these cucumbers get a lot bigger, you can check out our other gardening channel, Geeky Greenhouse, where we will have some videos about growing cucumbers in the near future. And here's a quick look at the purple tomatoes that we're growing this year. These are those amazingly deep, rich purple cherry tomatoes. Unfortunately, the flavor isn't as great as other cherry tomatoes, but you really can't beat the look of these things, especially when you slice them open and put them on salads. Here's one case where things have only improved. This is our self-watering pot. The two plants in here are the Turk's Cap, that's the one closest to us, and behind that we have the Conticho plant, which is one we've grown in the past. Both of them are from Capsicum chinense, and they're growing at a pretty similar rate here. But if we pull back the foliage, we can see lots of peppers forming underneath the canopy. And with plants like this, you usually end up with consistent small yields until the end of the season.
So I have here some potted pepper plants that I want to talk about. Over here is our Sugar Rush stripy plant. I know in a previous video we said that we probably weren't going to grow this plant again because we did have a lot of issues with disease and the plants didn't look great. However, I really want to make some hot sauce with the pods, so we decided to grow the Sugar Rush stripy again, and I'm glad that we did because this plant looks pretty good. We already have some pods coming in, and now that the overnight temperatures have come down a bit, we have a lot of flowers forming, and overall we're pretty happy with how this plant looks. We've been bringing a lot of our potted plants indoors at night just to kind of weather through this beetle season and minimize the damage as much as possible. Next here I have a little Carolina Reaper plant, and that is another plant that we said we probably wouldn't grow again just because it is so hot and we don't always have a use for the pods. However, we're the pepper geeks and we get excited, so we got this plant late and it is about a month behind from the other plants, but we should still get some pods off of it. It looks okay, and we have been bringing this pepper plant indoors also at night because it was getting completely attacked by beetles, but the new growth looks pretty good and we'll see what it does over the course of the next couple months. And over here I have a potted Cobanero plant, which went in at the same time as the one in the raised bed. They are really strong plants. However, this one has gotten destroyed by beetles, so a few weeks ago we started taking it indoors at night as well. This one doesn't look as good as the one in the raised bed, but we're gonna let it grow out and hopefully get a good harvest. So if you remember from last season, we had a giant Dorset Naga growing in this container. And this season we have a Zulu Warrior flower, which is incredibly spiky and weird. And you might notice we also have a couple volunteer Dorset Naga plants that are coming in. And we're gonna leave those right where they are. Maybe we'll get a few pods off of them. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend planting a Zulu Warrior. This is our first time. It is just a weird, quirky plant, but it's very spiky, difficult to manage, and really not the best flower for a big container like this. But it was a fun experiment anyways.
Now let's take a quick tour of our garden plot. This is a community garden plot that we rent out for the season, and we have a lot of peppers down here. They're doing pretty well, but this season, like I said, we've gotten a lot of storms, which means a lot of heavy rainfall, And down at these plots, we have really clay-rich soil. So the soil doesn't really need a lot of moisture, and when it rains a lot, there's a susceptibility of flooding and overwatering for the plants. So we've seen some yellowing leaves. We've had to actually fertilize down here, which usually isn't the case. The soil is very rich, but the plants don't look horrible considering the circumstances. We have these 6 jalapeno plants that are part of a pruning experiment. 3 of them were pruned and 3 of them were left unpruned. So far, in my opinion, the unpruned plants look a little bit better, but we'll see in the end of the season which ends up giving us the biggest yield. We also have a couple of rows of just random different pepper varieties, from banana peppers to shishito peppers, and everything ranging from sweet to super spicy. Let us know if you want to see more updates like this in the future. Maybe you want to see what our plants are looking like in the month of August. We'd be happy to do another update if you'd like. And let us know in the comments how your garden is looking this time of year. The weather has been very strange and erratic in our part of the country, so let us know how your season's going. Thanks so much for watching Pepper Geek, and we'll see you next time.